I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and GSM devices, when they're unlocked and they're hanging out in the PhoneDog offices, well, they're bound to get thrown in a dogfight. I've got two awesome GSM devices that are unlocked in my hands right now. One of those is the LG Optimus 4X HD. Now, this thing isn't available in the States just yet, but it's packing some pretty killer specs considering that it's LG's flagship smartphone. It's got a quad-core processor, an 8-megapixel camera, a big 4.7-inch display, and more. And then you have the Samsung Galaxy Nexus with Jelly Bean. So it's the GSM one with Jelly Bean, dual-core TI OMAP processor, a 4.65-inch display, but it's packing the latest build from Android. Which one of these is the best? We're going to find out in the dogfight, but first, some love to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with phones like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game, which we turn around and give to you on the site. When you go into Best Buy Mobile to get any device, any smartphone, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, your contacts, and more, so when you walk out the door, you're good to go. Let's take a look. Optimus 4X HD, Galaxy Nexus. Which one's going to come out on top? We'll find out starting right now. So what did the platypus tell the penguin when he was going to swim through the iceberg? He looked at him and said, YOLO. Now, apparently this YOLO thing is making its way around on the internet and such, but, you know, and for the longest time, I thought they were saying Rolo, because I love some Rolo candy, and so I thought it was Rolo, but apparently it's YOLO, it's you only live once. Well, if you're a smartphone junkie, you only live once with two awesome devices like this, so you might as well splurge and get your favorite device. You like how I kind of transitioned in there with that YOLO? I've been wanting to use that in a video, but, you know, to most people, that probably made absolutely no sense. Here are two awesome high-end Android devices. This is the LG Optimus 4X HD. It was announced at Mobile World Congress earlier in the year in Barcelona. I'm trying to kind of shift it away from that light. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it so well, but that light that's shining above me in the office. But announced at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, packing a nice spec list as well. It's got a 1.5 gigahertz quad-core NVIDIA Tegra 3 processor, a 4.7-inch IPS HD display, 720p, an 8-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, a front-facing shooter, and it's packing Android 4.0. Now, where it's notable here, you know, LG's kind of flopped, for lack of a better word, in the US. You know, they had the G2X. The G2X was pretty decent, not getting updated, and kind of a one-hit wonder on T-Mobile. We've seen the LG Spectrum, and, you know, it didn't really receive that traction, nor did the Nitro HD. So it's nice to see the Optimus 4X HD. We don't really have any word as if it's coming to any carrier, at least in this form, but it's a nice smartphone. It's packing a 2,100 milliamp hour battery. It's got the specs. It's got the hardware and the software, and with LG's user interface, it's received an overhaul, and it can definitely compete with TouchWiz, Sense 4, and some of these other stock Android at that, and some of these other more mature versions of Android. Then you have the Samsung Galaxy Nexus over here. This is the global version, so it is global device to global device. Neither one of these are available from carriers in the US, but this is the global build with a 1.2 gigahertz dual-core TI OMAP processor, a 4.65-inch Super AMOLED HD display with Pentile technology. You got an 8-megapixel camera on the back, or excuse me, 5-megapixel camera on the Galaxy Nexus with 1080p HD video recording, a front-facing camera. This one is packing Android 4.1. It's the only device outside of the Nexus S to run Android 4.1 out of the gate right now in the US. If you bring these over, it's one of the few that has Android 4.1 right now. It's rolling out. Hopefully the Verizon and Sprint US versions will see it in due course, but it's got a 1,750 milliamp hour battery in the GSM version, and it's available through Google Play for $349. So it's available at a good price. This was the device that was Apple tried to lock out of the market. Unfortunately, they were successful temporarily, and now it looks like you can get it with Android 4.1. So you can buy this one for $350. This one's about $600 unlocked through a retailer like Negri Electronics, which is where I purchased the one for PhoneDog. So $600 here, $350. Neither are subsidized right now. You can get a similar variant, obviously, on Verizon with 4G LTE for $99, which they just dropped yesterday, I believe, to $99. So spec-wise, they're very comparable, and I meant to keep this on maximum brightness. Let's see what we did wrong here. It looks like I may have it set to 10 minutes. Yep, okay, so I have it set to 10 minutes. But we'll take a look here. Stock Android 4.1, Android 4.0 over here with LG's custom user interface. Now, LG's user interface has received an overhaul, so if you're thinking from the Revolution or the Spectrum or the Nitro HD days, take a look at this again, kind of throw out some of your perceptions of LG, because they have made a notable improvement here. For example, take a look at apps. This is what the menu interface looks like. And first, let's take a look at some of the hardware things. You get a volume rocker over here on your left side. On the bottom, you've got a micro USB charging port. 3.5 millimeter headphone jack is up here. I don't know what I was thinking. It's up at the top. along with the power button. This is the white one. It also comes in black, and the model number is P880 if you're looking for it on the internet. Now, both are 8.9 millimeters thin, which is kind of nice. You know, they're very relatively thin devices, although this one has a much larger battery. That said, I don't know that that necessarily translates into better battery life by any means. We'll talk about that a little bit later in part 2. But you can see how they look here from menu to menu. Open in the App Store. You can see widgets up here as a shortcut in stock Jelly Bean. Then you have the shortcut to Google Play. Up here you have downloads and widgets, and then of course a settings button where I can easily go through and uninstall stuff that I don't want. So I can come in here and uninstall Smart World. I can uninstall the Weather Channel and go from there. You can also see my downloads and my widgets directly from the menu. So I can take a look at some of the widgets here, and you'll see LG's interface has been kind of tapered back a little bit on the Optimus 4X HD. It works much better with Ice Cream Sandwich than the former LG interface did with Gingerbread. So take a look here. You can see some stock Google widgets. Then you can see some LG stuff like Memo. You can see Music Player, some of these different ones. Weather, of course, Yahoo Weather. And then I've got some widgets from the applications that I've downloaded. Over here, all stock Google, but take a look, for example, let's just have a look at the Gmail widget, and we'll bring it out to one of the screens over here. 5 home screens on this device, which we'll talk about in just a second. Bring up the inbox here, and I can customize the size by coming through here. We'll change the size, and you'll notice the fluidity. Now, Android 4.1 Jelly Bean has something running under the architecture called Project Butter. Basically, Android developers realized, or Android creators of Android at that, realized that it was an issue. That, you know, even with Android 4.0, with these quad-core, super powerful processors, there was still some lag. Project Butter aims to reduce or eliminate that lag entirely, so Android is as fluid as other smartphone operating systems on the market, Windows Phone, iOS, etc. Huge improvements over here. I do notice a difference from Android 4.0 to Android 4.1. Much improved. And then, of course, Google Now over here as well, which we'll talk about in just a bit. 7 home screens over here, as you can see through there, and I've got some widgets on the home screens as well. I've got a dock down here at the bottom, and then applications out of the gate. You get some stock Google stuff, obviously, over here. You get Current, you get Google Plus integration. Same thing over here, Google Plus integration, but you're going to see some LG stuff over here. Now, neither of these are carrier-branded devices, but you're going to see something like Media Home, for example, an application manager, and things that obviously have LG custom icons as well. LG Smart World, LG Smart Share, remote call service, which is kind of cool because if you have an issue with your phone, they can diagnose it remotely without having to send the device into service and repair. Software update shortcut as well. And then, of course, all the icons have been kind of customized. Now, there are some personalization options which I really like in the 4X HD, which we'll get into in just a second. I feel like we're getting into everything in just a second, so my apologies for that. But it's hard to see on the white version, but there's a back button, a home button, and then a menu button right here. So you don't get the recent applications button like you do on Jelly Bean. And of course, these are on-screen buttons in comparison to capacitive buttons down here at the bottom. From here, you can change the theme, the home screen, the lock screen, system settings, and more. So just to give you a comparison between settings, menus, and then of course notification bars. Take a look up here. This is the Android 4.1 Jelly Bean notification bar. There are some changes as opposed to the older versions like this, but then up here you have your shortcuts, and what I really like about the LG version, you can edit this. So let's say NFC is really important to me. I want to bring it up here at the top, and then when I go back, you'll see that NFC has been moved over. So I can kind of customize my notification bar as to what's most important to me, and then of course, in typical Ice Cream Sandwich and Jelly Bean style, I can get rid of them by swiping. It's pretty quick and pretty easy. I left these text messages up just to show you what it looked like. Walter Johnson is a demo phone. Walter Johnson is also Phone Dog Aaron, which is kind of cool. I have multiple names. It's pretty neat. And then over here, you just press right there to get rid of everything. But I really like the notification bar over here in Jelly Bean. And then, of course, with Google Now, it works out really, really well, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But Walter Johnson, let's jump right into text messaging and take a look at both of these. I'm going to load both of those up. Stock Android over here. And then, of course, Walter Johnson, again, is me. That's a demo phone number, so don't think that's my personal phone number. 4.7-inch display over here. And you can see portrait to landscape transitions relatively fast. LG's custom keyboard has been much improved over previous builds. So again, if you're coming into this from the Spectrum or the Revolution, take a closer look at LG's keyboard. It still may not be your favorite on the market. I'd still recommend downloading a third-party solution, SwiftKey, Ice Cream Sandwich keyboard free, etc. But overall, it's pretty decent with some better autocorrect. Is ready for lunch. Quick Brown Fox is ready for lunch. It's 12:30, and Quick Brown Fox hasn't had lunch, which is odd because I haven't had lunch either. Quick Brown Fox and I are on the same schedule. You can see those transitions are nice and fast. So relatively easy to type on. I haven't had as much of a lag issue with this one as previous LG builds. And if you've watched my LG reviews, you know that I've talked in the past about having kind of a sticky screen. When I go to type or when I go to hit stuff, the screen isn't responsive or as responsive as I'd like it to be. So far, so good on this one. I haven't really seen that issue. When I'm scrolling back and forth, I've noticed what I need it to go into. So that's a nice thing. So over here, we'll say the Quick Brown Fox is ready for lunch. And then, of course, Portrait to Landscape transitions a little bit faster in Jelly Bean than they were in stock Ice Cream Sandwich. But again, you got the similar kind of interface look and feel over here. And then this is the Jelly Bean keyboard, which is very similar to Ice Cream Sandwich. Now, also notice that the on-screen buttons change. So you'll notice instead of showing a back indicator, it now shows a down indicator to remove the keyboard, then switches to back. So it's a dynamic on-screen key that changes depending on what application you're actually in. So let's take a look at web browsing as well, actually, which may be hard. Let me throw these on Wi-Fi and do that in part 2, because AT&T reception is pretty spotty in my office, and that's unfortunate. So I have to kick those onto Wi-Fi and get it to go from there. But let's take a look at the phone application on both of these devices. And forgive me while I pull these away. I was using these to make test calls the other day to test the reception, and they have some personal numbers in them. But you can see the differences here. Again, search, call, and then your menu button, which, you know, again, kind of a frustration with Jelly Bean and Ice Cream Sandwich. It moves around depending on what application you're in. So you notice the settings button, it's kind of a right-click button, and it's down in the bottom here. You'll notice when we go into Gmail, for example, it's up here, or it's actually down in the bottom as well. But let me find one that goes to my example. Let's maybe do TweetDeck. Is the TweetDeck one? Yeah, so you can see it's down here in the actual on-screen buttons area as opposed to up in the top. So it kind of moves around as opposed to being in one static place. May not be a point of contention for you. It's just kind of frustrating for somebody that's a little bit OCD, like I am. I'm not afraid to admit it. And then you've got your buttons here, 4.65, 4.7 inch display. No real difference in terms of ease of use when it comes to typing on the display or dialing numbers. It's all relatively easy thanks to large displays.